Welcome to the Belief Breakthrough Show, where we believe that you can achieve the life you dream of simply through shifting your perspective and breaking through your limiting beliefs. With your host, Tina Encarnacion, the author of Stuck in the Fire, a story of resilience, trauma and abuse coach, an energy healer, and Reiki master. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of the Belief Breakthrough Show, where we believe that you can achieve anything you want in life simply through shifting your perspective and breaking through your limiting beliefs. My name is Tina Encarnacion, and I am your host. I am a trauma and abuse coach, a Reiki master, and an author of the book Stuck in the Fire, a story of resilience. Today, we are blessed with such an amazing gift. We get to pick the brain of Beverly. She has been through so much and she has so much knowledge, and I am so excited to have her on my show, you guys. So with that, I'm going to allow Beverly to shine her light and allow you to see her beauty and what makes her so special. Go ahead, Beth.
Oh, well, thank you, Tina, so much for asking me to be on this show. It's an honor. We had so much fun when you were on my show. So it's a blast. It really is. My journey started back really in 1974, and I had lost my identity, completely lost my identity. And I had gotten in a dead-end marriage. I ended up with 3 kids, sex 3 times 3 kids. That's crazy, right? And coming second oldest of 11, it's like, whoa, I am not following in my mother's footsteps. But so much of my dreams had been shattered. Everything that I wanted to be, growing up and doing and traveling and the whole enchilada, right, was gone. And I did not see any way out except to end my life. And that's where I was, because I had no identity except by association. So I set out one night on a walk down a gravel road and decided, I got to figure out what's going to be the best way for me to just end it all. And I decided I'd start talking to God. I yelled, kicked, screamed, threw rocks, you name it. And I'll tell you, I just yelled so much to exhaustion, right? And then I heard the voice say, "Are you done?" And it's like, I guess so, right? and then the voice says, "Well, who's going to take care of your kids?" It's like, what? That's not real. What you can't say something like that, right? And I hear my dad's voice saying, if you're going to have these kids, you're the one who's going to have to take care of them, because your mom and I have, enough of our own. Well, second oldest of 11. Yeah, I guess so. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh crap. So if I don't take care of my kids, who is? Right. Mm-hmm. And it's like, fine, then let's make a deal. If I got to hang around because they were all under the age of 5, it's going to be a long time. I started putting out orders. I wanted this. And I put a whole list of everything that I wanted. And the voice just says, okay. Like, really? Now, this is in 1974. There's definitely nothing out there like there is today, right? Mm-hmm. We had one of 2 options. You went and saw a shrink, and he gave you some drugs to be on. Or second, you went to the nut house. End of story. Right? And neither one of those were an option for me. And then I started really paying attention to that inner voice again. And the voice was telling me mind over matter. What the heck is mind over matter? And I just followed the instructions. Start living your life as if you were, it was just you and your kids, which I did. And I started getting my act together, because I knew if my act wasn't together, how was I going to take care of my children, right? Mm-hmm. And I started really going after what I wanted. And it was that drive. My children actually were my driving force. They're what kept me going. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes what might look as a detriment ends up being an asset. And a few years later, I got my divorce. I moved out of Iowa. I ended up in Denver, Colorado, started my own business in the automotive industry. It's what I knew. Nobody, for women, that was not something that was going on in Denver, Colorado at that time. But I ended up with my own business, took it to 6 figures in just a couple years, My competition were paint stores that were around for, 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I did it. I had the respect of the guys in the shop, and I ended up having 2 other girls work for me. So we were known as those girls out there, right? We all drove purple trucks. Yeah, seriously.
Wow. So not only did you go against what the norm was by getting the divorce, because back then you didn't get divorced, right?
Oh my gosh, my dad thought I had just really gone over the deep end. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you not only do you get the divorce, but you move out of state and you open up your own woman-owned business,
Right.
and blow it out of the water. How amazing is that? So do you believe that was through shifting mindset, or was that through listening to spirit, or was that both?
I think it's a combination, because the comment mind over matter. What is mind over matter? Again, it's if you don't mind, it don't matter. So the creation happens in your thought processing, which is your mind, not your brain, your thought processing. The brain holds your database of information, right? And it's where that belief goes. Again, it goes back into your belief and your trust in yourself. What drives you? What really drives you? Right. And so I knew what I wanted and I knew what I didn't want. And so I focused on the want. So the didn't wants kind of went away. And, and it was in the 80s when I discovered that the voice that I was listening to was my higher self. It wasn't God. It was me, and the anger that I had. Oh my gosh, I was full of anger and hate towards my father. And whose voice did I hear first? My father's. Right. And after getting all this out and getting rid of all that anger and stuff, I was never angry at my dad. I never hated my dad. I only thought I did. What the real issue is, and I think this is something your listeners need to really pay attention to. It's the action that you take from an action that the other person did. So it's your reaction to an action. And you take the database of information that you have, and that's what creates the fuel for the emotion. The fuel is the feeling that produces the emotion to get out of hand. Right?
Absolutely. Now, I love that statement. You never hated your father, because I've recently come to the realization for the last 34 years, I held so much resentment towards my parents, and I blamed them for a lot in my life.
Right.
And I even wrote a book and released it. Right. And I'm like, they were so mean to me and they treated me so poorly, and they did. But I was holding them responsible for that, not realizing that they both came from ancestral pain and trauma, that they didn't know what to do with those buckets, and they just handed those buckets down to me, right?
Right, exactly,
so
exactly.
Who am I to be mad at them and hold them responsible for something they weren't even aware they were doing? They weren't, because they were treated the same way. They didn't know any different.
Right.
So.
That's exactly right. It's what's relevant to you. It's what's in this database, right? And what are you going to do with your database? To get rid of the old database, bring in the new database. And that's what changes. That's where the buck stops. And what you're doing here, Tina, is amazing, because you're sharing stories like this with women and men, right, who have these issues, that the buck can stop right here, right here, right? Absolutely. We are responsible for ourselves. I wrote a book a few years ago too, called The Power Formula, right? The heart-mind connection. And what it talks about is that whole mindset stuff, where we go from the conscious to the subconscious to higher consciousness, and how those three work together. Plus, you overlap that onto the brain, where you have your survival brain, which is the reptilian. Then you have the mammalian brain, is where all emotions lie. And then you have your cortex brain, your right and left hemispheres. And that's your database. And that database is stored in every cell of your body. So when you start releasing, you have to release it from that cell. And over the years, I've learned how to develop a technique I call the Rah-Rah System. It's 5 steps, and it's in the book. It's 5 steps. First up, you got to recognize. You have to recognize there's an issue, right? Then you have to acknowledge the issue. That's number 2, acknowledge the issue. And you have to acknowledge it as your truth. And this is where a lot of people have problems, because what do you mean? That's not my truth. And then they get in this conflict and they're arguing with you, right? Well, what's happening is the argument is with that subconscious, with that cell memory that's playing on autopilot. You have to remember, way back when it was created, that was your database of information. That was your reaction and interpretation of an action someone took.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Does it make sense?
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
Yeah. And as soon as you say, yes, I acknowledge that is my truth, the subconscious says, oh yeah, she said I'm right. Cool. Right? And that's what you want, because that subconscious is like the child. Then you can release, because at that point, the subconscious will let go of the old stuff, because you're going to offer something new. Now you can have a conversation with that low self, right? And then let the old stuff go, bring in the new stuff. Now your whole cell structure has changed. And that's how you begin your healing process. It changes your bloodline. The buck stops here, right? But then you've got to go that next step. If you don't replace it with the new database and you just eliminate, what's going to jump in is some old negative garbage from somebody else that you picked up or whatever. So you have to remember, that's key, to replace it with the new belief for the now. So that stores in your cell memory and starts autopilot. And then you just embrace that and you accept it as your new truth. And that's your rah-rah. And this can be done between 30 and 60 seconds. There's techniques that I can teach you how to do that. You want to go deep, deep, deep in, because layer by layer, then you're going to start really getting into some deeper things. But it really is simple. There's no regurgitation. And that's what I teach you, how to just recognize, so they don't have to regurgitate and try to figure it out, because only 5% of all that crap that's in there is yours. The other 95 is magnetic attachment from everybody else's thought, because all thought's magnetic.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was just going through that today. So today I started a hypnotherapy.
Oh, okay.
Because I've worked through a lot of crap in my life. And there was this one block that I tried every technique I could think of on my own, and I could not break through it. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try hypnotherapy. That's the one thing I haven't tried. I think that's totally like crazy. Like, how does it even work? I don't know how it works, but I'm going to try it because I need to get rid of this block. And so this morning, that's why my eyes are all dark and swollen, because I did my hypnotherapy and I just sobbed like a stinking baby, but I feel so refreshed, and that block is gone. It's absolutely gone. And I know I need to continue working on it and replacing that space that is now void. But
exactly.
It worked. It worked. And it was someone else's programming that has held me stuck for 37 years. And
right.
So
and
I'm just
what the hypnosis does is it relaxes the subconscious. So that you can communicate with the subconscious and say, you know what, this really isn't doing us any good. We have this old stale candy bar. What if I give us this new candy bar? It's bigger and better and fresh. Okay, boom, and the exchange happens. That's pretty much how simple it is.
Yeah, it was crazy how simple it was. And it was crazy what came up, because I knew I had this block, but I didn't know where the block came from.
Right. And
so to go into hypnosis and immediately go, oh, that's where that came from, and now let's rewrite it, was like mind blown. Why did I do this?
Well, you weren't ready for it then, so don't beat yourself up. It's going to happen when it's supposed to happen. It's all in the timing. Just be grateful the timing got here, right?
Thank God. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, you say it wasn't in the timing, and that's something else that I think is important for us to touch on, because it's not going to happen until you're ready. You may want it, but it might not be ready. You might not be ready for what's coming down the line, right?
Exactly.
And so I truly believe timing is everything. Every single step I took in my healing journey to get to who I am today came at the perfect timing.
Right.
And so it's amazing to see how the energy within this world just kind of, it's like, I know you better. Like everyone says, pray, but know that it's going to come on God's timing. Like it's so true. Like it comes on, it's not your timing. It's your higher self going, okay, you're not ready for that yet.
Right.
So I know you've dealt with timing yourself. So what is the best way for someone who's wanting to go through healing but isn't ready for that layer to be exposed yet to prepare themselves for that healing?
It'll automatically prepare itself, right? So what comes up comes out, and don't concern yourself about what's still in there, because trust me, when it's ready, it'll show, right? So just pay attention to what does show up, you know, rather than suppressing the things that show up, thinking you need to get over here to this, but you have to uncover some of this other stuff. You know, look at it as if you were an archaeologist, right? And you're sitting there and you're brushing away layers and layers of stuff, right? Well, if you were to take a stick of dynamite in there, kaboom, right? Would you then really discover what you want? Well, it's going to be in pieces, shattered all over the place, and you've already cut and pasted it enough. So you don't want to do that. So just pay attention to what comes up, comes out. What comes up, comes out. And the more you allow that to happen, the faster it goes. All of a sudden, you'll be where you wanted to be because you thought that was the ignition point, and you're going to find out that that really wasn't the ignition point at all.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah, pay attention to what's coming up and just let go of it.
Yeah. Now it's hard nowadays for people to pay attention because of all the noise, right? There's so much noise.
Yeah, there's a lot of static out there. Well, and you go to social media, you want static? Whoa, heaven forbid.
Yeah.
Right? You know, so you really got to do it. But, you know, you look at what's going on in the world today with this whole COVID thing, correct? And what that has done, you want to talk about stagnation. You know, it's not static, it's stagnation. Why? Because in a split second, the world came to a halt. Not just an area, the world, right? Oh my gosh. And that's a change that, and most people, probably 95% of the people on the planet do not like change. And that was drastic change. And then all the fear sets in, and now you've got different programming. You have to understand the brain, how the brain and the mind works in combination. You know, we were in this isolation thing. The human body was not meant to be in isolation. At 6 weeks, the whole psyche or the whole inner mental starts its own shifting. And now we've been fed with a lot of fear. We've been paying attention to the news and all that kind of stuff. People talking. And if you've got fear-based already, and now you got this dumped on it, if you had any kind of anxiety, it's going to make it worse. If you were in, just say you were in a relationship that was totally unhealthy, it probably got more unhealthy. So there's extremes on both sides, right? And that isolation, where do you go? There's no place to run. What do? Suicides have gone up, anxiety levels have gone up, abuse has gone up, right?
Yeah.
So how do we find the inner workings of who we are, right? And it's that quiet space. It's like you said, with hypnosis. Hypnosis is a place of quiet peace to really move into the inner workings of who you are. It takes discipline to get into that frame of mind.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
So again, where do we go from here? Because the programming, we've had 6 weeks plus of isolation, which has shifted the complete program of the habitual things that you always knew. And there is no normal, what was once normal. And that's another issue. It's like, I don't know how to act. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Well, you're being told what to do. You're being told, wear a mask, walk that direction down that aisle, stay 6 feet away from that person, make sure that if somebody's coming at you, that you move if they don't. So you're being told exactly what to do, when to do, how to do, and how often to do it, and why to do it. That's not your free will. That's not what the human element is created for, right?
Yes.
So it's, how do I get my power back? How do I find me? And again, it's this loss of identity. And really start asking yourself, where is the true identity of who you are? and it goes into everything. Are you associating yourself, your identity by association? Oh, well, I work over here when I can't work there because it's shut down. Well, I used to do this. I take care of my kids. This is all association. The true you is the essence of the soul, of the inner working of who you are. What fulfills you, right?
So then how do they get there? How do they figure that out? Do they, for me, I've learned to go in and meditate almost daily. My family is like, oh, mom's meditating again. Cause like, that's my quiet center, right? I'm like, I'm going to lose my mind out here. So I'm going to come in here.
It is. Well, you start looking, I mean, you have your little levels, you have your beta, alpha, theta, and delta, right? Well, as you walk around the planet, when you're feeling, when all the senses are taking place and all the emotions, the stressors, all of that, you are in a beta level, which is static noise. Okay. When you can find that peace inside the static, you don't have to stay and move yourself into a meditation. You can bring that peace wherever you are, because now you rise above the beta and stay into the alpha states, because alpha is the widest levels of peaceful unconscious consciousness, however you want to label that, but it keeps you from responding on that autopilot to the negative things and breathe the negative things and respond and live in that lower vibration. So it's increasing that vibration. When you stay up in the alpha states, you don't take things as personal. It's easier for you to eliminate things. Your actions and reactions become what you choose to have them be instead of the automatic pilot, because now you stop the conflict from within that runs off the beta vibration, right? And when you can start to go deeper, like when you go into meditation, you go deeper into the theta states, and the theta is where instantaneous things respond, right? And we've all had those things that, like, oh my gosh, this is like a miracle, right? That's the theta. And when you can understand that and how the brain and the mind operates with the neurotransmitters and how you rewire the whole body and the whole cell memory and your soul cellular structure and combine those two together, and that's some of the teachings that I give, that you can start moving into the depths of all of that. But we have to start somewhere. You start with that simple little Rah-Rah system. And when you start working that, layers are going to go so fast, but it will actually take you into those levels of the alpha state of relaxation.
Got it. So it's going in and figuring out what needs to come up, allowing it to come up, releasing it, and then through releasing it, replacing it with a new belief system of your own, not somebody else's, and that will get you up to the alpha state. Am I understanding that correctly?
That will help keep you into that alpha state.
Okay.
So as you start that processing, because your mind is quiet, because you're focusing on that, and it's all about focus. A lot of people think, oh, meditation, I got to sit here, right? Not so much.
No,
not so much. And I've trained in this for a long time, and I run around in theta state 90% of the time. Right now, how things are happening, the conversations that I have, everything is just flowing in. It's coming through that theta state because I know what it feels like to be there, and that's where I keep myself. Right.
Okay.
But it takes discipline. It takes training. But the first thing you have to do is recognize when you're functioning in the beta. Where's your level? So where's your emotions? So when you start with the fear, anything that's related to fear, whether it's resentment, anger, upset of any kind, grief, guilt, shame, blame, all of that is running down here in that beta, right? Now, when you start working up here in love and joy and happiness and fun and excitement and commitment and courage and confidence and your self-esteem, all of that, now you're getting into the levels of the alpha state. And the deeper you stay into that alpha state and the more clearing that you get away of the things that you are not, you're going to start fluctuating into that theta state. And how you get to that theta state is when you fall asleep. just prior to going into a deep state is theta. And theta is very small. It's very, very small. And then you go into the delta, and then you come out through theta, and then you're in alpha, and then you go back in, back and forth as you sleep, right? When you first wake up and you remember your dream, you're still, you got to wake up. The alarm hasn't gone off yet. It's coming, but you're in that state and you're trying to remember what your dreams are, and you're in this thought processing. You are now in the theta state, right? And then after you're awake, maybe 10, 15 minutes and you're up, then now you're down in the alpha states. You have that first cup of coffee, bam, you're in beta. That fast.
Man. So I like to teach people how to use their toolbox, right? And what tools to put in their toolbox. So I know one of the tools that I keep in my toolbox and use almost on a daily basis is something that you have in your toolbox. And it has changed my life forever. In fact, it was the very first tool that I ever used to start to change my life, and that would be essential oils.
Uh-huh.
And so you have a passion for essential oils the same way that I do. And so what has been your experience through the use of essential oils to help shift your mindset? Because I know essential oils can also help you get into those different
yes, they can.
states, right? And so how I bring this up because we're on that the different phases of your brain, but I also know essential oils can trigger different phases of the brain.
Right.
So can you teach us about the relationship between essential oils and the way that it helps the brain to work or supports the brain to shift and change and heal?
The olfactory bulb is your smeller, and the olfactory bulb is right here at the bridge of the nose. And it's the only part of the brain that is exposed to the exterior. Okay. And so the sense of smell triggers all kinds of things. How many times have you smelled fresh bread and it takes you back to grandma's house, and they're cooking, or you smell chicken cooking and it takes you to, an event, right? So your smell will take you back in time and memory. Right. So what the essential oils do is when you make your different combinations and stuff, and that's a key to making a blend in essential oils. And the book that I wrote on essential oils made easy, and I think you have that book, right?
I do. Yes.
That was really funny. It's like, I got your book. Oh my gosh. We didn't even know each other. Right? And so in the book, it teaches the art of smelling, which is really important when you come to the blending, because you have the art of blending, the art of smelling. And then you smell with one nostril and you smell with the other, completely different. When you put it down around your navel and you turn it, you're going to smell something different in that oil than when you bring it up to the chest level, you bring it up to the chin level, and you bring it up to the nose. Each one of those levels, you're going to smell something different. Okay? And it triggers different points in the brain from the olfactory. So it triggers emotions, events, healthy or unhealthy, right? It's like that recognition, but it also starts a healing process. So if you wear the essential oils during a meditation, it's going to help you to calm down, because it responds to the nerves as it goes through the olfactory bulbs, right? It hits the nervous system and it begins to go out and calm it down. If you put it on the exterior, as a compress, it's going to take down inflammations. It fights bacteria and viruses and any kind of infections. So oils can be used topically for just thousands of things. And I wrote my book in a way different than anything else that was out there on the market, because it lists all the benefits of the oils and how they blend with each other. When I was working in that industry, really hot and heavy, I did a lot of classes, and I had blends that went with the classes, right? So I made different oil blends for those purposes, specifically for what we're just talking about, for the emotional releasing, for the feeling of peace, to get you down into that meditative state faster, to help keep your energy elevated to a higher level, right? And I had a whole series. I think I had like 80 different oils that were all animal blends. So if you have an animal totem, whether it's a fox, a bear, a wolf, an eagle, whatever that is, we had an oil for it that would help you to connect with that animal spirit medicine. And when you understand that, when you understand nature and you understand the animals, the elements of everything on the planet with nature, it helps you to become one with your surroundings. And that's what helps to keep you balanced. So if you ever notice that when you're feeling all upset or confused or just totally lost, you take a walk out in nature and all of a sudden things begin to shift. It's because nature is the ultimate balance. So whatever man does to nature, it will do something in accord to come back into balance. And that's why, tsunamis, tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, you name it. It's all about bringing it back into balance, bringing it.
Right. Well, I think that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing nature say, all right, I've had enough. I've had enough. I'm done being abused. I'm done being taken advantage of.
Yes.
I'm going to set you, all of you people, I'm going to set you in your place. I'm going to show you who's the boss. So this is what's going to happen. I mean, we're seeing COVID is just really spiking again, but now there's 2 more pandemic potentials coming down the line. It's like we've got tornadoes, we've got fires, we've got so many things, and it's Mother Earth going, all right, kids, it's time. It's time.
And again, you have to look at all of these things. It's part of the ecosystem. We have an ecosystem in our body. We have an ecosystem in our mind, not our brain, our mind, right? So how do you balance your ecosystems? I also wrote a book called What Side of the Fence Are You On? Okay. All right. Because we live in this world of duality. You can be happy and you can be sad, but you can't be both at the same time.
Yeah, no.
So where are you when it starts to tilt? What side of the fence are you on? In every aspect of your life, if you ask yourself, which side of the fence am I on? Which side of the fence do I want to be on? And choose that and walk in that path. Walk in that path of harmony. Your belief system is a part of that whole thing. Where is your belief system? What is your belief system?
Absolutely. And I like how you said it's a choice, because if you choose not to choose,
you still
you're still choosing, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like so many people, when they just throw their hands up and give up on life, they tend to veer towards the negative, right? Because for some reason that negative has a stronger pull, and that's why we're seeing so much hatred spout up right now and so much anger and frustration. It's because the noise is so loud. People are throwing their hands up. They're saying 2020 sucks. I don't even care at this point, and it has allowed the avenue of hatred and frustration to come in and just go like wildfire through the whole world, through the whole entire world. And so I think at this point, it's time for us humans to pause and say, where do I choose to go?
What side of the fence am I on, right? What side of the fence am I on?
Yeah. Right. I'm no longer going to allow media to tell me what side I need to be on. I need to be responsible for myself and make my own choice. And my hope is that more people, as they do that, will choose the positive side and say, yeah, that sucked. My history sucked. My ancestors, what they went through sucked. The abuse that I went through sucked. But I'm going to choose to move forward and choose the positive, because I'm tired of living in the negative, and make that choice to make that shift.
Right. And that's a key. You have to make the choice to want to, and the fear of change has to be less than the fear, the fear of change has to be greater than the fear of staying where you are, or you won't happen. It won't happen. You'll stay put. I mean, when you talk about abuse, how many women get in an abusive situation, at home, and I mean some serious, almost beat to the death type of situations, where they muster up, they reach out, they get help, they leave, and then they go back. Or they leave and then they go back. How many times is that game being played? What makes them go back? What is the pull to go back?
I think it's the fear of change, the fear of the unknown, the fear of not knowing what's ahead of them. They'd rather stay where they know what's happening than go into the unknown.
And that's a part of it. That's a small part of it. That once you get out of an abusive situation, you feel alone, you feel embarrassed, you still have all the beat down things. I'm not good enough, all of the things, that really tear you down. No confidence, no self-esteem, no trust, all of these issues. Very, very strong. The guilt, the griefs, everything, right?
True.
And there's no one out there that gets it. There's no one out there that's helping them because everybody's too busy being busy with themselves and everything else, right? And I think this has a lot of fault with our world today is that we forget as humans to support one another, regardless of what it is. It's not something that's contagious. And I think a lot of people, steer away from that because it's contagious. Just like people steer away from autism. If you are a parent of an autistic child or a child that has Down syndromes or a child that has, Asperger's or any type of discomfort, right? It's like you want to just like isolate yourself from the parent, from the family. Like, oh, that's contagious. It's not people, it's like, wait a minute, we're all human. We're all here together. And when we can come together and support each other, then that negative doesn't have a chance to really seep in there. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes.
And, so it's, if we can support, and again, what you're doing here, Tina, this is a sign of support. I've talked to many, many people on my show that are doing some of the similar things that you're doing with these abusive situations. Hey, here's time for you to have a voice. Here's a support system. We're all coming together. Yes, we all have our own piece of whatever that abuse was. However, we can support each other and build each other up and move forward and move forward and move forward, and do that as a unison, as a group, and not be singled out. And I think that's what needs to happen more.
Absolutely.
And again, it's getting rid of that blame game. The abuser was abused.
Yes.
Okay. And I think that's something too that people don't understand.
Yeah.
So where
hurt people.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because if I'm hurting this much, I want somebody else to hurt more than me so that I can feel better. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
absolutely.
And then that spirals and spirals and spirals, right?
Absolutely.
So it's like, hey, I feel really great. I want to make you feel greater than me. Wow, what a concept, right? What a concept.
Right. And that is not normal in our society.
No.
That's not normal at all. And so it's so funny because for me, like I'll meet someone and I'll see their beauty that they just have no clue is even sitting within them. And I go in to reach it and raise it up. And they're like, well, what do you want for this? Just be awesome. Just be you. I don't want anything. Right. I just want you to be awesome. And they're like,
they don't, and they can't compute to that word. What do you mean? I don't know what that means, right? It's like my show theme is being that best you that you can be, right? Yeah. And I lived that way all of my life, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know if your audience did the math. I said my journey started when I was 24 in 1974. Okay, this puts me at age 70 in biological years. But in my body and my spirit and my belief years, I'm 45. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to remain 45 for the rest of my life, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking to hit that 300 mark, so I'll still be 45.
There you go.
And again, what you're talking about with the mindset and the belief, your belief and trust in yourself. When you start building that in yourself, that's when you can find the true essence of who you are, the soul essence of who you are. What is fulfilling to you? What's fulfilling to you? And that caring and sharing, it's not about giving. It's about giving to yourself, right? Because you cannot give outside of yourself what you haven't given to yourself.
Mhm.
You know, I've asked a lot of my
Absolutely.
clients, you know, how much do you really love yourself? Well, on any given day, probably averaging out maybe 70%. Okay.
Mm.
How much do you love your children or your spouse or your parents? You know, and they'll give you this, 100+%. Really? Interesting. I wonder how that can be. If you only love yourself 70%, how can you give 100% out there? And they kind of don't understand it. And it's like, I'll tell you what, I need $1,000. How much cash you got on you? And they say,
Mhm.
you know, well, I have $10. Well, $10 is a long way from 1,000. So let's just say, you know, okay, I've got 800. I can give you 800. Well, that's not going to do me any good. I need 1,000, but I don't
Mhm.
have it. So you can't give me 1,000 because you don't have it. I want 100% love from you, but you only have 70% to give, right? You know,
Mhm.
so if your cup isn't full here, you can't deliver a full cup out there,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that is just words of gold right there. So I think we've given a lot of information. We've packed this 40 minutes full of like nuggets and aha moments and epiphanies. Oh my gosh. We could go on for hours, I think. But I just want to say thank you for coming onto the show and sharing your genius with us, because you literally live in your zone of genius all the time. It's amazing. Every time I get to talk to you or hear you, you amaze me. You are like someone I am inspiring to become. And so I just want to thank
Oh,
you for sharing your time with us. If someone wants to work with you, where can they find you?
oh my gosh, they can find me all over social media. Beverly Zeimet, just look it up. And I'm all over. I'm on YouTube. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Pinterest. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. And
Awesome.
yeah.
Thank you so much. So if you guys need a little bit of Beverly in your life, and if you're watching this show, I'm sure you do, because you're coming here for inspiration. You now know where to find her. Just go on any social media platform, type in her name, and she will pop up.
I
If you
will
have
pop
not, you will pop up. If you have not yet subscribed to our station or our channel, please do so now so you don't miss out on any other episodes. We go live every Monday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, or I'm sorry, 6 p.m. Pacific time. And if you want to be a part of a group like Beverly spoke of today, where you are supported 100%, while you can be raw and vulnerable and know that people are not going to judge you and kick you down, but lift you up and encourage you, please join our Facebook group, Women Empowered to Heal, where you can find hope and inspiration around every corner. And there is no room for judgment in that group, but only love.
And you can
Guys,
find
thank
me
you.
in that group
Yes,
too.
yes, absolutely. So you guys, please tune in for another episode. Thank you for sharing your time with us today. And I hope you found some inspiration in this show. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Tina.